The Galactic Alliance Council chamber was tense, with rows of alien representatives murmuring as the holographic display flickered with images of devastated worlds and ships reduced to wreckage. The holographic display projected real-time visuals of Alliance strongholds falling to the relentless advance of the Scorn Pact. Once vibrant planets were reduced to smoldering shadows, and entire populations displaced or enslaved. The despair in the council was palpable. Voices overlapped in frustration, helplessness, and lingering fear. Amidst the clamor, a figure seated in the corner maintained an unbroken silence. Ambassador Elias Gray, the lone human representative, watched the proceedings with an expression that was both unreadable and composed. Gray's presence was not unusual. Earth had maintained a policy of neutrality in intergalactic disputes for years. Humans were often seen at these meetings, but rarely did they voice opinions, let alone take sides. As the discussions turned to desperation and talks of potential surrender, Counselor Zenter Prime, a towering alien with a hardened gaze, slammed his hand down, silencing the assembly. "If we do not negotiate terms, we risk annihilation," Zenter declared, his voice edged with a bitterness born of years of war. "The Scorn Pact does not want peace, they seek subjugation. We are but days from total collapse if we do not make sacrifices now." A murmur of reluctant agreement rippled through the room. The council members, many of whom had already seen their home planets ravaged, seemed resigned to this grim fate. It was then that Ambassador Gray, in an unhurried and almost imperceptible motion, rose from his seat. The subtlety of his action caught no one's attention until he cleared his throat. The quiet sound cut through the council's anxious chatter like a blade. Heads turned, eyes narrowing as they focused on the human who had finally broken his silence. There was a pause, a beat that hung heavy in the air, as though time itself held its breath. "Esteemed council members," Gray began, his voice calm yet resonant, holding a quiet authority that commanded attention. "Humanity has chosen a path." There was a sharp intake of breath from several council members, their shock evident. To choose a path? The statement alone was enough to send a ripple through the room. Gray's eyes, cool and assessing, swept over the assembly. "For years we have remained neutral," Gray continued, his tone unwavering. "We watched, we listened, and we hoped that diplomacy would prevail. But as we all now see, this hope is not enough." A low murmur began, the aliens around the room whispering amongst themselves. Gray waited, allowing his words to sink in, before delivering his next sentence with deliberate clarity. "Humans are joining the war." The declaration echoed in the chamber, leaving an almost tangible silence in its wake. The other representatives looked at him, stunned, as though they were witnessing something unprecedented, and indeed they were. The human diplomat, the one they had always considered a voice of moderation, was now aligning his people with the Alliance in direct defiance of Earth's long-standing neutrality. Zenter Prime's piercing gaze was fixed on Gray. "Your people have always chosen peace, Ambassador Gray. This change, it is not one we anticipated. Why now? Why the sudden involvement?" Gray met Zenter's gaze, his expression remaining steady. "We have come to understand that peace without strength is no peace at all. To stand idle as tyranny spreads across the stars, this is no longer a stance we can abide by." A murmuring broke out again, this time filled with curiosity, perhaps even respect. Gray, for the first time, was revealing something about humanity's true nature, something they had kept well guarded until now. "Ambassador Gray," came a voice from the back, a soft-spoken but sharp-minded diplomat from the Vanera system. "With respect, we know little of humanity's capabilities. What can your people bring to the war that we have not already tried and exhausted?" Gray inclined his head, his tone as diplomatic as ever, yet imbued with a quiet confidence that left an impact with each word. "Our contributions are not limited to weapons or ships. We offer strategy, precision, and innovation. Humans may appear reluctant to enter conflicts, but when we commit, we do so with purpose and preparation. What we lack in brute force, we make up for with ingenuity and resolve." The council members exchanged glances. Humanity's lack of visible military engagements had led many in the galaxy to dismiss them as unprepared, even weak. But as they looked into Gray's unyielding eyes, some began to question their assumptions. Gray continued, "We do not make this decision lightly. We are aware of the risks. And yet, as a people, we know that some battles must be fought, not out of choice, but necessity. The Scorn Pact cannot be allowed to enslave or exterminate any more innocent lives. If we do not act now, then when? If not us, then who?" There was a heavy silence in the room, a silence that spoke volumes. Gray's words had struck a chord. The council members could no longer dismiss humanity as simply neutral observers. Gray had placed his people's honor and integrity on the line in a manner that was rare among galactic diplomats. It was a commitment that transcended politics. It was a pledge to justice itself. Center Prime spoke again, his tone less confrontational, almost respectful. "And do you believe, Ambassador, that humanity can turn the tide of this war?" Gray's gaze was unwavering. "I do. But we will need full access to the Alliance's strategic intelligence, to every piece of knowledge you have gathered on the Scorn Pact, their weaknesses, their movements." A collective intake of breath could be heard as Gray made his demand. Full access was no small request. The Alliance had always kept certain details private, even from its allies. But the steely determination in Gray's eyes left little room for argument. "We will also require coordination across Alliance fleets," Gray continued. "A united front with precise synchronization. Humanity has capabilities that, until now, have been hidden. But I assure you, they are more than sufficient for the task at hand." One of the more skeptical council members scoffed lightly. "And these hidden capabilities, are we just to take your word on them, Ambassador?" Gray's lips curved into a barely there smile, more a suggestion than an actual expression. "Our word is all you will need, Counselor. But soon enough, you will have something more substantial to rely on than promises." The skepticism hung in the air, a question unspoken, but Gray seemed unfazed. He looked around the room one last time, as though sealing his commitment with each individual present. "We may be new to your wars," he concluded, his voice resonant, "but humanity does not enter battles it cannot finish." For the first time in decades, the Galactic Alliance Council sat in stunned silence, awash with a mixture of hope, doubt, and something they had not felt in a long time, expectation. Ambassador Elias Gray returned to his seat, the faintest echo of his words lingering like a ripple in the room. As he sat, a wave of energy seemed to pulse through the council, a newfound unity sparked by the unexpected resolve of a species they had long underestimated. Gray's declaration of humanity's intent to join the war sent shockwaves across the Galactic Alliance's vast network of species, worlds, and militaries. Word spread quickly, and within hours, whispers of doubt mingled with sparks of newfound hope. Some saw this as humanity's naive ambition, while others, especially those on the front lines, grasped at it like a lifeline. Even in their most desperate moments, they hadn't anticipated that Earth, of all places, would step forward with such conviction. Within the Alliance's inner circles, however, the mood was more skeptical than celebratory. While humanity was respected for its diplomacy and creative problem-solving, Earth was still considered something of a backwater world by many advanced civilizations. The question on everyone's mind wasn't just why humanity was joining the war, but how they could possibly make a difference against a force as overwhelming as the Scorn Pact. It didn't take long for the first directive to come down from Ambassador Gray. He requested an immediate council session to outline humanity's terms for coordination with the Alliance. Representatives from each species gathered in the circular council chamber, their expressions a mix of intrigue and disbelief as Gray stood before them once more, this time with a clarity and resolve that left no room for doubt. Ambassador Gray, General Thura, an elder statesman of the Zanvar, began, his voice careful but direct. "You've announced that humanity will stand with us in this fight. Yet, with respect, none here know the extent of your resources, nor the depth of your strategies. I ask you plainly, what exactly do you bring to our war effort?" Gray met his gaze steadily. "The human contingent will bring several capabilities that, until now, have not been disclosed. I will outline our plans, but first, I will need full access to the Alliance's intelligence on the Scorn Pact, locations, fleet sizes, weaknesses, every operational detail you possess. A ripple of murmurs rose around the room. Full access to intelligence was not a small request. For decades, the Alliance had carefully guarded its information, and many council members now glanced at one another, uncertainty painted on their faces. Gray continued, his tone unwavering. If we are to coordinate effectively, we cannot afford secrets among allies. Humanity has invested heavily in advanced AI systems, unmanned fleets, and cyber warfare units. To deploy these assets to their fullest, we need complete cooperation, full transparency, and, in certain theaters, command autonomy. This last request met with audible gasps. Command autonomy was nearly unheard of. Even the Alliance's most trusted commanders didn't operate with unrestricted authority. Gray's words hung in the air, daring any to challenge his demand. General Thura spoke again, his tone softened but unyielding. Ambassador, you ask us to trust you with the very heart of our operations. This is no small matter. We have fought, lost, and bled together. Humanity has yet to prove itself in this manner. Gray's response was as calm as it was resolute. I understand your hesitancy, General. But consider this, humanity's entry into this war is not one of ego or conquest. Our neutrality was not an act of cowardice, it was a deliberate decision to prepare. While the galaxy saw us as passive, we studied. We trained. We've built our forces with a single, focused objective in mind, to defend our allies and repel the threat that stands before us. He paused, letting his words settle before continuing, his gaze intense. Our AI-driven ships don't require pilots. They can withstand the Pact's weapons with advanced shielding and adaptive defense technology, and they are programmed with strategies that evolve in real time. When I say that we are prepared, I mean that we are ready to face any tactic they throw at us. The council members exchanged wary glances, some nodding slightly as they processed Gray's words. These were no hollow promises. The confidence in his voice spoke of a preparation that none had anticipated. Seeing an opening, another representative spoke up, her voice skeptical but curious. Ambassador Gray, you make bold claims. But are we to simply take your word? Until now, humanity has not shown the power you speak of. Why should we believe that your hidden fleet, your so-called AI systems, are enough to turn the tide against the Scorn Pact? Gray inclined his head slightly, acknowledging her doubt. Because, Counselor, humans have always known that survival often depends on what you can achieve in secrecy, not showmanship. Our fleet's silence has not been from weakness but from caution. We have not deployed these assets because we did not wish to escalate unnecessary conflicts. But the Scorn Pact has left us no choice. He let the statement sink in, then added, Humanity's military strength is not based on sheer numbers, but on precision and strategy. Our fleets are designed for surgical strikes, for cyber warfare, and for infiltration. While the Pact's forces depend on overwhelming their opponents, we operate on efficiency and adaptability. Every ship we deploy is more than a weapon, it is a tool with a mission, designed to learn and respond to the enemy in ways they will not anticipate. Center Prime, watching Gray intently, finally broke his silence. And what of your demands for autonomy in certain sectors? You asked much, Ambassador. Gray met his gaze directly. It is true we ask for trust. And trust is not given lightly, I understand this. But with autonomy, humanity can operate in ways that will surprise the Pact. We can deploy advanced cyber sentinels capable of disabling enemy systems mid-battle. These sentinels will target their command structures, their communication networks, and even their weapon systems. We do not aim to overwhelm them with numbers but to dismantle them from within. Counselor Darjean of the Vanera system leaned forward, intrigued. These cyber sentinels, you mean to suggest you can take control of their vessels? Gray's faint smile was one of quiet assurance. Yes, Counselor. These units are fully autonomous, designed to infiltrate and disrupt enemy fleets. We have tested them on our own systems to ensure their effectiveness. If deployed strategically, they can cripple the Scorn Pact's capabilities. A silence settled over the room. The implications of what Gray was describing were immense. This wasn't just a new fleet, it was a new way of waging war. A way that promised not just brute force but precision, adaptability, and a level of intelligence that the Pact had likely never faced before. After a long pause, Zenter Prime nodded slowly, his voice carrying the weight of both hesitation and reluctant respect. Then let us see what humanity can do. We will grant you the access and autonomy you require, Ambassador Gray. But know this, if you fail, the consequences will be dire, not only for humanity but for us all. Gray's expression remained steady, his voice calm and assured. I am aware, Zenter. Humanity has not taken this step lightly. Failure is not an option we consider. With a final nod, he took his seat, leaving behind a council room that was no longer merely skeptical but intrigued, and perhaps even hopeful. For the first time, the Alliance saw the faintest glimmer of possibility, a chance that humanity, the silent observers, might indeed possess the strength and innovation necessary to bring a new, unimagined dimension to the fight. The first deployment of human forces moved with a precision and speed that left both the Scorned Pact and the Galactic Alliance unprepared. In the cold reaches of the nebula where battle lines were drawn, human ships emerged from hyperspace with chilling exactitude, each vessel slipping into carefully chosen positions that maximized coverage and minimized exposure. For those Alliance forces who had fought for months in a brutal stalemate, it was a scene that defied their grim expectations. Human command ships pulsed with energy, their hulls reflecting the quiet confidence of their purpose. The Scorned Pact's fleet loomed on the opposite side, a mass of brute force and armored vessels, its commanders accustomed to overcoming their enemies with overwhelming firepower and relentless assaults. But today, things would be different. The first waves of unmanned human drones launched with a swiftness that disoriented even the seasoned Pact commanders. These drones were unlike any the Pact forces had faced, agile, relentless, and capable of forming tight, dynamic formations that shifted in response to the battlefield's every pulse. Then came the Cyber Sentinels, small but powerful autonomous units that breached enemy systems with ruthless efficiency. As soon as the drones established contact, the Cyber Sentinels infiltrated the Pact's networks, hacking into navigation controls, scrambling communications, and sowing confusion among the Pact ranks. Within moments, entire sections of the Pact's fleet found their systems disrupted. Shields dropped without warning, engines misfired, and targeting systems looped in chaos. To the observing Alliance forces, it looked as if the Pact ships were turning on each other. Among the Pact commanders, panic set in as their fleet began to fracture, their ships moving in unexpected, erratic patterns. In a desperate attempt to reassert control, the Pact issued commands for a full forward assault, trying to break through the human front lines. But the humans were prepared. Their ships fell back, splitting into smaller, coordinated units that wove through the chaotic onslaught with ease. Every maneuver seemed calculated to draw the Pact forces further into a trap, closer to an inevitable defeat. Captain Nari, the human fleet commander, watched the unfolding chaos from the command deck, her voice calm and steady as she issued orders to her crew. Initiate Phase 3, she instructed, her eyes fixed on the incoming wave of Pact vessels. Activate electromagnetic pulses and deploy the Sentinels. Let's remind them who controls this space. The order triggered a surge of activity. Human ships emitted controlled EMP blasts that temporarily disabled the systems of nearby Pact vessels, leaving them vulnerable to further attacks. Meanwhile, the Sentinels went to work on a deeper level, infiltrating individual ship systems, rerouting commands, and even setting one Pact ship against another. It was psychological warfare at its finest. The Pact commanders could only watch in stunned horror as their own ships began to turn on each other, misidentifying friendly vessels as enemies and launching attacks on their own fleet. The scene was one of pure pandemonium. Alliance soldiers, observing from the sidelines, could scarcely believe their eyes. In all their years of combat, they had never seen warfare executed with such precision and psychological impact. These humans had not simply come to fight. They had come to dismantle, to undermine, to take apart the enemy's very sense of control. In the midst of this tactical brilliance, Ambassador Gray's voice came over the command channels, calm and composed, yet carrying an edge that cut through the noise. Let the Scorn Pact understand that this is only the beginning. We will not be merely an obstacle to their conquest. We will be the end of it. Gray's words circulated through the Alliance ranks, bolstering their spirits and rallying them to action. Inspired by humanity's unorthodox strategies, the Alliance forces moved in to support the human-led assault. Working in unison with the humans, they picked off the weakened Pact ships, striking with newfound coordination and confidence. As the human-led tactics took hold, the Pact commanders grew desperate, their traditional methods of brute force and overwhelming numbers proving useless against this intelligent, evolving opposition. They resorted to reckless maneuvers, pushing their ships forward in a blind rage, but it was too late. The battle had shifted beyond their control. One Pact warlord, broadcasting on an open channel in a last-ditch effort to intimidate the Alliance, roared, "You think these tricks will save you, humans? We have crushed empires. Your games mean nothing against our might." Captain Nari responded coolly, her tone icy. "Your might is hollow. You depend on fear and brute strength, but strength without intelligence is simply a burden. Look around you. You've lost before you even began." With that, the human fleet launched its final assault. Coordinated strikes hit the Pact's key command ships, severing their last threads of control. The cyber sentinels infiltrated deeper, shutting down engines and redirecting power to systems that overloaded and self-destructed. The Pact fleet was dismantling itself from within, each ship a pawn in humanity's meticulously orchestrated plan. The defeat of the Pact forces in that sector was decisive. When the last Pact vessel fell silent, floating adrift in the void, the Alliance forces erupted in cheers. They had just witnessed a victory that felt nothing short of miraculous, a victory that defied the brutal, mindless savagery they had come to expect from war. But amidst the elation, there was a new respect, almost a reverence, directed toward humanity. What the Alliance had assumed to be a quiet, peace-preaching species had revealed a capacity for precision and strategy that none of them had anticipated. Humanity was no longer an observer in this war. They had become the driving force, the orchestrator of a victory that would echo across galaxies. Gray's voice came through once more, addressing both the human and Alliance fleets. "Let today's battle serve as a message to the Scorn Pact. Our strength lies not in numbers nor in fear. It lies in our resolve, in our unity, and in our willingness to face the darkest threats with light and reason. We stand together, unbroken, and we will not waver." The weight of Gray's words settled over the fleets, the significance of this victory clear to all. For the first time, the Pact had been dealt a blow that left not only their ships but their spirits shattered. And they knew, as did everyone listening, that this was only the beginning of humanity's entry into the war. Captain Nari glanced around her command deck, nodding in satisfaction at her crew's focused attention. Every officer and crew member had played a role in this victory, each piece of the human fleet moving with purpose and discipline. In that moment, she understood the essence of what they had just accomplished, not only a victory in battle but a redefining of humanity's place in the galaxy. The Alliance, too, felt the impact of humanity's entry on an almost existential level. What they had once thought was a galaxy ruled by brute force now seemed to hold the possibility of a different kind of power, a power rooted in wisdom, calculated risks, and above all, a willingness to defend not out of aggression but out of necessity. As the remnants of the Pact fleet retreated, battered and humiliated, they left behind more than their defeated ships. They left behind the certainty that humanity had shifted the balance of power, and with it, the fate of the galaxy. The aftermath of the battle left an indelible mark across the galaxy. Word spread swiftly of the unexpected and decisive victory orchestrated by humanity, a turning point that few had dared to hope for. Across Alliance-held worlds, there was a renewed sense of resilience, a belief that the war could not only be fought but won. And it was humanity, those quiet, unassuming diplomats, who had turned the tide, revealing a strength that the galaxy had never before glimpsed. Back in the Galactic Alliance Council chamber, representatives gathered to discuss the victory and plan the next phase of the war. This time, their expressions were no longer clouded with despair. Instead, there was an energy, a spark of confidence that had been missing for so long. They exchanged glances, some nodding at the human delegation with newfound respect. Where once they saw humanity as diplomats and observers, now they recognized them as formidable allies and strategists. Ambassador Gray took his place at the head of the chamber, his presence now carrying a weight that no one questioned. As he stood, the chamber fell silent. Each representative looked to him not only for a recounting of the victory but for the guidance that had suddenly made humanity a force to be reckoned with. Gray's eyes met those of each council member, his gaze steady and calm, as though this moment had been inevitable all along. "Our victory was no accident," Gray began, his voice measured and clear. "Humanity did not join this war out of ambition, nor out of a desire for conquest. We entered because we believe that tyranny unchecked is a threat to us all. The Scorn Pact has underestimated us, and that underestimation has cost them dearly. But make no mistake, their resolve remains strong. They will not rest until they have avenged this defeat." A somber silence settled over the council members as Gray's words took root. The Alliance representatives had long grown accustomed to the Pact's relentless aggression. They knew that this victory, while monumental, would ignite a fierce response from their enemy. Gray continued, his tone unwavering. "It is imperative that we not become complacent. The Pact will return, and they will return with a vengeance. But we are ready. Humanity will stand with the Alliance, united not only by necessity but by choice. We understand the cost of peace, and we are prepared to pay it." General Thural, who had once doubted humanity's strength, spoke up, his voice carrying a newfound respect. "Ambassador Gray, on behalf of the Zenvar and our allied systems, I extend our gratitude. You have shown us that this war is not lost, that we have allies willing to face the darkness beside us. But tell me, how do we prepare for what comes next? What role do you envision for humanity in this alliance?" Gray nodded, acknowledging Thural's question. "The role we envision is one of cooperation and strategy. Our tactics will continue to leverage precision and intelligence rather than brute force. We will deploy our cyber sentinels and unmanned fleets to key sectors, focusing on dismantling the Pact's control from within. Our goal is not merely to fight them, but to weaken the very structure of their command. With each battle, we aim to undermine the foundation of their power, so that when they look upon their own forces, they see only fragmentation and disarray." Councillor Darjean, known for his caution, raised his hand to speak. "Ambassador, while your methods have proven effective, do you believe the Pact will allow this to continue unchallenged? They are already regrouping. They are not a force that simply retreats without retaliation." Gray's response was calm and resolute. "Councillor Darjean, I assure you, humanity is prepared for the Pact's response. Our strategies are not static. They are designed to adapt, to evolve with each encounter. Our intelligence division is already working to intercept their communications, and our engineers are enhancing our cyber capabilities to match any advances they may bring. Humanity's strength lies in our ability to prepare for the unknown, to adapt to change, and to remain steadfast even in the face of overwhelming odds." As Gray spoke, the council members listened intently, each finding a renewed sense of purpose in his words. What they once saw as an insurmountable threat now seemed like a challenge they were willing to face together. Humanity's presence had rekindled a collective courage, a belief that the Alliance could overcome even the most formidable adversary. Councillor Zenter Prime, who had been silent up until now, finally addressed the room. "Ambassador Gray, your people have shown us a new path forward. You have revealed a strength we did not know you possessed, and for that, we are grateful. But tell us, what do you seek in return? What is it that humanity desires from this alliance, beyond the end of the Scorn Pact?" Gray looked at Center Prime with a measured expression. "Humanity does not seek dominion or influence. We seek stability, a galaxy where our children can live without fear, where freedom is not a privilege but a right. Our objective is not to rule but to ensure that power does not fall into the hands of those who would use it to subjugate others. When this war ends, and it will end, humanity wishes only to stand as an equal among allies committed to the shared principles of justice and peace." There was a murmur of agreement around the room, as the councillors absorbed Gray's words. They understood now that humanity's entry into the war was not an act of opportunism. It was a declaration of principle, a statement that some battles were worth fighting not for conquest but for the preservation of something greater than any one species. As the council meeting drew to a close, Gray addressed them one final time. The Scorn Pact will return, and when they do, they will be met by an alliance that is stronger, more united, and more prepared than they could ever have anticipated. Humanity will stand with you, not only in battle but in the pursuit of a future where peace is more than a fleeting moment between wars. With those words, the council members rose, each one holding a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity's entry had indeed changed everything. They no longer felt as though they were merely fighting to survive. They were fighting for a cause they believed in, a cause that now held the weight of universal significance. Outside the council chamber, news of the Alliance's renewed commitment spread quickly. Across the galaxy, people of every species looked to humanity not only as allies but as symbols of resilience and unity. Humanity had stepped forward with resolve and clarity, offering a vision of a galaxy where strength was tempered by wisdom, and where peace was the ultimate goal. In the days that followed, humanity and the Alliance worked tirelessly to prepare. Fleets were organized, intelligence networks expanded, and strategic outposts fortified. Humanity's cyber sentinels continued to disrupt the Pact's communications, keeping their forces in disarray. Each day brought fresh reports of confusion within the Pact ranks, stories of ships that turned against their own, of communications that vanished in the ether. Humanity had not only joined the war, they had fundamentally altered its course. And when the Scorn Pact eventually returned, their retaliation fierce and unrestrained, they found themselves facing an alliance that was no longer fractured and fearful. Instead, they encountered a coalition of worlds, united under a banner of resilience, and guided by the steady hand of humanity. As battle after battle unfolded, the Pact began to understand that they had awakened something greater than themselves. They had provoked not merely an alliance but a determination, a unity forged in the fires of adversity. In every engagement, humanity's influence could be felt, their tactics reshaping the battlefield, their resolve infusing the alliance with a strength that seemed to grow with each passing moment. The Scorn Pact, once the galaxy's greatest threat, was now on the defensive, its forces scattered and its influence waning. Through it all, Ambassador Gray stood as a reminder of the principles that had brought humanity to this war, not for glory or conquest, but for a vision of a galaxy where peace endured and justice prevailed. And as the final battles drew near, one truth became clear to all: everything had changed the day humanity joined the war.